Chapter 11.
Anyway, thank you very much for coming. We wouldn't be here without you. Perek Yud Aleph.
We would be here, we just wouldn't have such a crowd.
Perek Yud Aleph is one of the shortest prakim of Tanya. And I want to add that not only is it a short perek, but generally speaking, there are few expositions in this perek.
Yeah.
It's a basic, you read it, what you see is what you get. So we may get out early.
Yeah.
You never know. It's incredible. So let's take a look. In Perek Yud, the Alter Rebbe taught us, spoke about, developed, described the two types of tzaddikim. Tzaddik v'toivloi, tzaddik v'raloi. Perek Yud Aleph, the Alter Rebbe will speak about the two types of Rishoyim. And the Alter Rebbe begins that V'zeh u'mazeh, Hashem created the world, mirroring that Toiv and Ra mirror each other. So on one side we have Rasha v'toivloi, l'umas, he is the counterpart of the tzaddik v'raloi. So we're talking about the Rasha that still has good in him is the counterpart of the tzaddik who is tzaddik v'raloi, who still has some evil in him. What does this mean? What does it look like in the Rasha? Dahainu. Shehatayv shebenafshi ho'alikis. Shebemoichai u'b'chol alayimani shebelibay. The good in his nefesh alikis. That dwells in his mind and in the right side of his heart. Kofuf u'batal lagabi hara. Is batal. The Ra is able to overpower the Toiv. So let's take a minute to talk about what the Alter Rebbe is saying. The Tanya, the Tanya's approach is that it's not only about what you do, but it's also about who you are. It's not only about your actions, it's about your essence. So to be a tzaddik is not only to be perfect in machshava dibur u'maaseh. To be a tzaddik means that your insides changed. Similarly, when we say to be a Rasha, what does it mean to be a Rasha? To be a Rasha means that your insides changed. Not only are your pe'ulos, are there things that you do that are wrong, but something's happening inside of you. Now, a human being should conduct themselves al pi seichel. A person has bechira. Hashem gave us agency. We have seichel. And our seichel should be able to guide, direct, instruct. When people create a vacuum, it's like, every once in a while in a company, someone shows up in the company and says, why do you do what you do? And then the people ask, oh, well, really, why do we do what we do? I'm not sure. So it's, let's talk about this. In the world of a Beinoni, there's no such thing. You don't do things without an understanding of why you do it. There's always a motivation. So that a person should create a space in their life where they do things stam, without any purpose, like idly browsing on the internet. In the world of the Beinoni, it doesn't exist. You're looking for something. What do you need? Can I get you something? So, I'm not. What do you do?
I'm just killing time.
Right. I'm just looking. There's no such thing. So the Alter Rebbe writes that the Rasha, the Rasha who there's still the nefesh elikis still has a voice. But there's a certain area where they're allowing themselves to function without seichel. There's a certain area where someone compromised and they justified, and it doesn't matter what it is. Let's say I'm just going to give examples for argument's sake, not for argument's sake, just For as an example, I'm just going to throw out some things. We're not getting personal. We're just right. So, in other words, let's say a person has a certain challenge that when he travels, he likes to buy a nash in the airport, and when he does that, he doesn't worry about Pas Yisrael, Cholav Yisrael, whatever it is. There's a certain justificate, whatever it is. There's a certain setting in which, and in that sense, it could be that it's a constant thing. It's constantly that when he's set up in that kind of position, so that's what he does. Whenever he gets a coffee at Starbucks, he has cholav. He never does it at home. But whatever, there's a certain inyan. So for him, his nefesh alikis has been overpowered in this one aspect. And that's, the Alter Rebbe is going to describe he's going to get into 3 levels of Rasha. The highest form of Rasha v'toivloi, meaning someone who on the surface looks like a tzaddik.
Wow.
But there's one weakness somewhere, where they've given in. They allow themselves to do something wrong, knowingly. But otherwise, at all other times, they're amazing. They're perfect. They're literally a Beinani. It's just whenever they show up in the airport, they do, there's a consistent Aveira. Then the Alter Rebbe is going to describe the other extreme all the way.
But even Cholavakim, which is lack of a minhag, is not. Why would that make somebody a Russia? I think it's the wrong type of mashal.
I'll accept it.
Right. Yeah.
In other words, I'll say,
But we have to find something.
by the person's own standard.
He's breaking his own standard.
Right, he's breaking his own standard, so he's giving in. He doesn't have the koyach. All the way on the other hand, still in Rosh Hashanah, you have a person. all the way on the other hand, you have a Rosh Hashanah who frequently does Averis. Frequently gives in. He doesn't push himself. And the only thing is that regret, there's always regret gnawing at him. And the Alter Rebbe brings an pasuk, Rishoyim Aleim Charotas. And then the final example of Rasha is Rasha Varaloi. So that's those are the 3 points on the axis that the Alter Rebbe marks. So here the Alter Rebbe is speaking about the highest level of Rasha v'Tovlei. So let's take a look. Dahainu shehatayv shebenafshi holikis shebemoicha ubechal ayimani shebet nefesh holikis is bemoyach ram yaklipe shebechal lasmoli. He's bottled. He cannot overpower. There's a certain area where the nefesh alikis becomes weak, and the nefesh abamis overpowers. Yeah, this level, this darga mischalik gamkein lervaves madreges chalukas. There are tens of thousands of combinations. I mean, we could imagine every person, their weakness, their meshagas, their area. The Indian, says the Alter Rebbe, kamus ve'echus habitul. How much, meaning, is the bittul? When we talk about the quantity, is it in one of the 3 levushim? The Alter Rebbe is going to speak about it. And so that's how much, or how frequent, or when we talk about the quality, how serious is the Aveira? How deep is the blemish? So the Kamus ve'echus habitul ukfifas hatoiv lora chas v'sholem. How great, right? How great is this subjugation? How powerful is the Yetzer Hara? Says the Alter Rebbe, Yesh mi, there is a fellow, there's a person that the bittul is a tiny bit. It's tiny in quality and quantity. So there's a very small field where the nefesh elikis loses control. For me, when the Alter Rebbe starts off that the nefesh elikis, let's remember the nefesh elikis is in the mind. Here's a person that 99.9% of the time they operate intelligently, but there's a spot where they lose it. You know, someone triggers them with something, they just they lose it.
So he's framed?
Yeah, okay, so he's framed. The Afghan Zois, even that weakness, it's not constant. So I just want to point out that when we speak about the word tamid, the word always doesn't mean always. The word tamid mean, in other words, daily is tamid. It doesn't mean around the clock. A daily practice.
Consistency.
Yeah, there's a certain consistency that means tamidus. So the Alter Rebbe says here, someone that ain't a bit tamidus. In other words, not every time that someone tries to trigger them do they fall for it. Sometimes they're a midbinisoyim, you know. Not every time when someone comes and says, could I use your organization to launder money for me?
No, take a sunset.
So, you know, not every time will the person. So, not frequently, not bitmidus. Velay kadir meaning leprakim kroivim. It's not even at a close frequency. Ela leitim rechekim, in very distant, on very rare occasions. Mizgaber hara alatoiv. So the negative energy in the person overcomes. The kaivish esair ktana huaguf. He takes hold. You have the actual Tanya in here too. It takes hold of the body. It uses the body to do its bidding. Says the Alter Rebbe, however, it's not the entire person. Meaning, they do something mindlessly. They do something. They're not so invested. You know, like the famous story that someone contrasted. Someone said, the Hasidim, they speak Lashon Hara, but they don't shave. In other words, to shave without a razor is whatever, it's debatable. But Lashon Hara, of course, is a Dairaisa and it's many Yisurim. So the response was that Lashon Hara, you don't prepare. You're sitting around, it falls out. You know, to shave, you stand at a mirror, you turn the angles on the mirror, you put a cream. It's a whole process. You make hachonas. So over here, the Alter Rebbe is saying, sometimes a person could do something wrong.
That itself is Lashon Hara.
Yeah. Sometimes a person does something wrong, it's mindless. They're not so invested in it. It's, it's not that, someone he enjoys his food so much. His whole metzius is, like the Baal Shem Tov showed the Hasidim, that a Yid looked like an ox wearing a shtreiner. He was so into the meat.
Poor guy.
So he says they couldn't recognize him.
Hashem to show it to who?
The Rebbe brings a reminder that there was a Yid to his Talmidim. They put their hands around and then they saw an ox wearing a shtreiner. Right? That's taking you are what you eat to a new level.
They made a painting out of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sagt der Alte Rebbe, man darf nicht machen a paintings, it's done in real life. Al Kolponen. This is all we're bringing about ourselves. The person becomes, he follows whatever the Yetzer Hara says. He becomes Dahainu, says the Alter Rebbe, he does an Aveira just in Maisa. And what kind of Aveira? Lasis Aveira is kalos, to do a light Aveira. What's a light Aveira? A light, we learn in the Mishnah not to weigh one mitzvah. We don't know what's kala chamura. But on the basic level, a mitzvah kala means that the einish is smaller. If you have an einish of skila, so then obviously it's more severe. You have instances where there's no einish, in that. What do you have? Tarumas, you have complaints. But, so, Avedas kalas v'lei chamuras chas v'sholem. B'dibur levad. Sometimes a person does something wrong. It's only in dibur. Why does the Alter Rebbe say dibur levad? Because we have l'moshel alav she'im bei ma'isa. You don't get malchus. So in a certain way, an aveda b'dibur is not as bad as an aveda b'ma'isa. On the other hand, even an aveda b'dibur still affects other people. Right? When a kid says an inappropriate word in a classroom,
You're done.
you can't say he only said it. What do you mean? You're creating an environment. There's a whole group of kids. I mean, there's a whole sviva. So dibur and ma'isa affect the environment. However, when it's machshava, there's machshava levad. Machshava levad, you say in a certain way, machshava is less. Because you didn't affect anybody around you. But without jumping first, says the Alter Rebbe, b'dibur levad, and even in dibur, ledaber, to speak, avak lashon hara, or letzonis. Pashtus, it's a simple thing, that the word avak, dust, meaning it's traces of lashon hara, also applies to letzonis. It's like it should have said avak twice. Because letzonis itself is sholosh klippus atmeis, to make fun of someone outright. So, avak lashon hara, just as an example, what's avak lashon hara? Someone who says, someone mentions someone's name, and someone says it's better not to talk about that person. Right? So that's avak lashon hara. It's a trace. So, and in whatever would be avak of a litzonis chahai gavna, something that's seshmekt mit an aveira, but it's not completely an aveira. The person who does an aveira only in thought. Now, it's important to understand how the Alter Rebbe lines this up. What is machshava levad? We're not tzaddikim. In our minds, machshava of aveira comes up, and we don't choose it. It's not up to us. So how does that make us a Rasha? So that's why the Alter Rebbe, the next words, hirhure aveira, are actually a translation of machshava. Eibe machshava levad. What does machshava mean? Hirhure aveira. Someone who chooses to fantasize about Aveira. He's speaking particularly about the inyanim of Niyuf, in the area of Tznius. So Hirhuri Aveira, someone who's having thoughts about Aveira, which Chazal tell us that Hirhuri Aveira are kosher me Aveira, are heavier, are worse than an Aveira. Why are they worse? Some of us learned the Maimer together. The Alter Rebbe I don't remember exactly which parsha it is. I feel like it's somewhere in Vayikra Bamidbar in L'Kutei Torah. The Alter Rebbe has a very, very sharp mimer. We learned it Shabbos morning. And the Alter Rebbe writes there that people think, I'm only thinking, it's not harmful. If I would do an Aveira, fine, but thinking an Aveira, and the Alter Rebbe, he turns it around like a, so, now what do you mean? Your machshava is so much closer to your nefesh. Maisa is an external thing. Even dibur. But thought is, that's tied up with you. That's your pnimius. Like the mashpiyim used to say that you can't compare making a pair of cotton pants dirty. You put it in the washing machine. You have silk pants. So either you got to dry clean it, or the dry cleaner is going to tell you, I'm sorry, I can't place it for some kind of suede, or I don't know what. We don't really have a treatment for this. It's very delicate. So machshava is a delicate place. It's close to the nefesh. So therefore, irure aveira, kosher me aveira, it's even worse. It's touching the person in a deeper place. Another part of it is that what a person imagines, it's like a hisbonenus. It takes on a stronger form in the brain. It becomes very vivid. It becomes very strong in the person.
Sure.
Things that people do, after a while, it fades. But things that you reflect on, they become etched in a very deep way. So in that way, it's kosher me'avera. Then the Alter Rebbe continues, vegam, even someone that's im einei mahader ba'avera la'asoisa. Now remember, what's the Alter Rebbe looking for? The Alter Rebbe is looking for an example of a person who does an aveda with only one of the three levushim, and in that levush, it's only a lighter form. It's a matzav kal. So now the Alter Rebbe is bringing the lighter side. First, he defined what is machshava. Machshava means hirhuri avera. What do Chazal say? Hirhuri avera are kosher me'avera. Says the Alter Rebbe, but there's also a lighter form. In his mind, he's not the character of the fantasy. He's not thinking about him doing an aveda. He's thinking about this Indian. The Torah says in Pashas Kiseitze, I believe, it says in the pasuk, "V'nishmarto mikol davara." What does it mean? Chazal explain, "Shelo yahader b'yom chulu," that a person shouldn't think during the day about intimacy. So therefore, and what is it saying? Not about it. It has nothing to do with him. It's not about his own part of it, but that during the day you shouldn't think about it. Another example of an Aveira is Shehi Shas HaKosher Lasud B'Torah. Now, Shas HaKosher Lasud B'Torah, what does that mean? For many of us, nighttime, by the time the night comes around, we're too tired. During the day, we have to work. At night, we're wiped. So we can't say, now that's a Chzetzen learner. Who are you making fun of? You're going to open the Gemara and you're going to fall asleep. In other words, think about the way it was in Chazal's times. That a worker is a day laborer. A day laborer means you have to show up. You got to leave at Alois HaShachar and you got to come home by Tzeis HaKechovim. So you're working all day. When you come home, you don't have physical labor. You're working in the field, whatever it is. You come home, you're iskumuch fartik. Let's say a person had an opportunity that he didn't have to work. He was able to rest. He had a day of a break. Now it's nighttime. He can't go get a job now. Now he has time. It's quiet. So now there's a Shas HaKosher Lasud B'Torah. In other words, during the day, if you're sitting around, you got to go work. So it's a Shas HaKosher Lasud B'Torah, and he's well rested. V'hu mefana libo levatala. And he is just hanging out. He's just, shoot, I don't know, whatever, shooting the bull, the breeze, I don't know how you say it. Whatever the expression is. Kedetanam ba'avis, the Mishnah says, Haner balayla, somebody who's awake at night, umefana libri chulu, and he's just, there are different ways to learn the Mishnah, if it's two separate things or one thing. But the point is that just mitzad that aspect, it's an opportune time because, the Gemara says that the night was created for learning Torah. Right? The Ivra Laila Lemigris is only to learn. But there are other aspects of, like the night is also a dangerous time. So that's why learning Torah, it's like necessary in order to
Fend off.
to stay in a positive place. You have to learn Torah. But Akoponim, Sheba'achas mikol eila, by one of these, only in Maisa, only in Dibur, only in Machshava, the Kayetze Bohem, in one of these forms that he presented, Avak, Lashon Hara, the Kayetze Bohem, another form, but with only one area of weakness, Nikra Rasha Ba'isahi. At that time, he's called a Rasha. Why? Sheharasha benafshei goyver bay, umislabish begufei, umachtiyei, umetamei. V'achar what happens afterwards? Goyver bay atev shebenafshei holikis. The good that's in him wakes up. It overpowers. Umischaret yascharota, umavakesh mechilo slicha me'Hashem. He follows the right process of tshuva. Hashem yislach lo. Hashem will forgive him. Im shav b'tshuva har'uya al pi atzat chachmeinu zal. If he followed the right tshuva, what the Alter Rebbe brings from Yuma, from the first perek of Yuma, b'shleisha chiluke kapara shahoyer Rabbi Shmuel doirish chuluk mishkasav v'makam acher. A mitzvahs asay, Hashem forgives you on the spot. A mitzvahs loisa say, he waits till Yom Kippurim. If it's a krisis of Mrs. Bezdin, Yisurim Memarkim, the 3 stages. Now, it's important to remember that when the Alter Rebbe wrote in Perek Aleph, Ve'im achakach, I think we all know this Balpeh, this line. Ve'im achakach asa tshuva, nikra tzadik gomer. You do tshuva, you're a tzadik gomer. It's part of the question that the Alter Rebbe asked on the first page. But you're a tzaddik gomer only b'shem hamushal, not b'shem hatoyar. Right? The shem hatoyar is like the PhD title, right? A doctorate that you get, right? Some people around this table, when they come to shul, they're called professor. That's shem hamushal. You ever had that experience?
Nice. Sometimes.
Yeah. So that's a shem hamushal. I think the whole way of calling someone professor is Shem HaMushal. but the Shem HaToyar is PhD. No, I am accredited. The Alter Rebbe is investigating now the Shem HaToyar, the true definition of a Beinani Tzaddik Rasha. When he said in Perek Aleph, if you do Tshuva, you're a Tzaddik now. That's Shem HaToyar. That's descriptively, not factually. But the Alter Rebbe is saying here, even after you do tshuva, you're still a Rosh V'Toivra. Because your capacity, that taiva, that challenge, that weakness is there. You have charata now. You did tshuva. Hashem is going to forgive you, but it doesn't mean you're not going to do it again. Because you have a proclivity, you have a weakness, and when you're exposed to it, it pulls you in. There's another thing that people speak about, which obviously the Alter Rebbe doesn't use this language here. The Alter Rebbe, that people use this expression, Rosha B'Koyach. Some people have a very hard time with that expression. A potential Rosha. What does it mean, a potential Russia? You tell.
You've got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
You could be a big
We're
Russia.
talking about a Mesifta.
Everyone's a potential god.
per-
Everyone can steal.
No, a person says, my
That's
son,
important.
I know my son. I have to put him in a good environment. If he's not going to be in a good environment, there's going to be tzoros. Right? Imagine there's a person, he's a Beinoni. But he's only a Beinoni if he's in a good environment. If you keep him in good company, he's going to be a Beinoni. Then he's not a Beinoni.
Aha.
A Beinoni is under all circumstances. Now, we say every day, "V'al tavienu l'lidei nisayon," and it doesn't mean that you're supposed to walk into.
Two types of babies. You have sweet person who is corn.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're going to test yourself. You're going to walk into a situation, there's a ruach metzuya, and there's a ruach she'ein metzuya.
Right.
He's going to go to some kind of district, who knows where. He wants to check out. He's going to sit in the theater with his eyes open because he wants to see if he's a Beinoni for real. Right? That's not
Not smart.
But just to understand here, the Alter Rebbe is talking about the highest level Rosh Hashanah. He's only over an Avera once in a blue moon, and then it's only a Maisa Levad. Right? And he does tshuva. Right? To me, I think a lot about this in the setting of a classroom, and of course as parents, you could work on yourself and speak nicely and do everything right for on and on and on, but you lose yourself once,
Then there's one kid that gets you nuts.
and that's what's remembered. That leaves the biggest ration. Out of the how many millions of minutes
Right.
did you spend with your child, and for 1 second of all the years you slapped him, and that's what he remembers. So it's like, imagine that one moment of Aveira, so that's it, I'm not a Beinoni anymore. But the question is, what are the koiches? Yeah, we have to do tshuva and work on cleansing our hearts. That those temptations, and of course we're human beings. Yeah, now the Alter Rebbe continues to the next. V'yesh mi, there's a Rasha she'ara gever b'yosef. The Ra has more power. It overpowers him more. Umislapshim b'kol shloisha levushim shel hara. Machshava, dibur, ma'aseh. He's successful in getting him to do things. Sometimes people say, I never dreamt that I'm going to do such things. I'm not a ganav. How did it happen? The mitamol. I find myself stealing. So it's Averis Chamuris Yeser, Ubeitim Krevim Yeser, greater frequency. So why is he a Rosh Hashanah still? He says, Ach ben Tayim Mischaret. Because he regrets it. The regret comes to him. He's not working to develop it. He's flooded with a feeling of charata. Because the good in him is mizgaber k'tzaz bein tayim. It peeks its head out. Elo she'ein lo yizgabrus kol kach l'natzeach asara. When the good wakes up, it's not strong enough to win. He can't gain ground. He's not able lifresh nechatov legamre. And this is something that people experience. Sometimes people make a hachlota. They don't want to lie. I want to stop lying. They want it so much, and the next morning they still find themselves lying. It just happens again. It falls out again. And many other types of examples. People, it's like, I made a achlota, I'm not going to do this again. The next thing they know, the next morning, they're gambling again. Whatever it is. So he says they don't have the hisgabrus. Lifresh meratot li is moide va'oizev, like the Lashon HaPosuk, to walk away. This is what the Chazal meant when they said, Rishoyim Meleim Charotis. Now, first of all, when the Pasuk says Rishoyim Meleim Charotis, it doesn't say a certain type of Rishoyim. Because this is the biggest part of the population. This pasuk describes
Everyone.
the biggest part of the population, so it's a generic rishoyim, and the loshem maleim charotis is it's like it happens by itself, right? Maleim, they're full. It's not describing something they did or they think about, or it's the way it comes up. They're not bali bechir. They didn't meditate on it. They didn't put in effort to bring it. It came. It comes to them. Shehei miroiv harashoyim sheyesh bechinas toiv benafsham adayim. There's still good in them. Now, I want to talk about this word for a minute. There's still good in them. In Chassidus, we're very familiar with the terms makif and panimi. The Alter Rebbe is going to use this loshing of makif and panimi. Makif, we were speaking about at Shabbos by the Maimer. Makif doesn't mean that it surrounds you. Makif means that it's disconnected from you. Isarusa de Leila, when the Isarusa de Leila leaves, it's like the teacher is in the front of the room, kids aren't cheating, we hope. The teacher steps out a minute, the kids are cheating. What happened? They know it's wrong, but somehow the information didn't permeate. They know what's expected, they know how to do it, but they didn't internalize it. The way the Alter Rebbe is describing the Rosh V'Toivloi, even though he does Avedis with such frequency, there's still goodness in him that he would like to be better. Like he really appreciates. It's still part of his reality. Like in his consciousness, he appreciates good. He's not like, it's not worth it. No, he.
But definition for both type of Rishoyim.
For the Rosh, for the higher level, for sure. But the Rosh V'Raloi, the Alter Rebbe says no. The Toiv is only makif. What makif means, it doesn't really have ashpah. Unless you take it to a situation of someone's telling him to bow to an idol.
Same situation.
The Toiv has no voice anymore. So let's take a look. Somebody who never he doesn't regret. That's Nikra Rosh V'Raloi. That's a Rosh V'Raloi. What does V'Raloi mean? He has Hu Levadei Nishar Bekirbei. His consciousness, what he feels right with, what he understands is Ra. Ki Govar Kol Kachal HaToiv. It left his world. It remains at a distance, disconnected. Meaning, by a tzaddik, when a tzaddik becomes a tzaddik gomor, the Ra becomes good. By a Rasha, when the Rasha becomes a Rasha gomor, the Toiv, the Nefesh Elikis can never be recruited for Avedis. The Nefesh Elikis always remains pure. So what could he do in such a dirty place? He has to run away from it. So he remains makif. That no matter who it is, if there are 10 Yidden, the Shechina is there because the Nefesh Elikis is always there at a point. Rabbi Greenglass, one of the things that he speaks about at the end of this parak, he says, there was a chassid in the Alter Rebbe's times, there was a Yid Chassid. There was someone who came around the Fabrengens. You heard a few Torahs from the Alter Rebbe, but he was a Balavera. People knew that he did all kinds, So one time he came into there was a Fabrengen, he came in, the Chassidim threw him out. So people, why are you throwing him out? He says, because the Misnagdim are making fun of us. They're like, oh, that's a Chassid. So the Alter Rebbe found out about it. Someone told the Alter Rebbe about it. The Alter Rebbe said, if you would know how precious it is by the Eibishter one time that someone doesn't do an Aveira, you would be Mekadosh. To understand, in other words, on the flip side, one time that you don't do an Aveira, it's also tremendous. So every little thing is incredible. Then, of course, we have all the stories about the Pinta Leyid, B'chinas Makif. But on a basic level, it doesn't. We're always at the Kiyum HaMitzvahs, the putting on tefillin. A Jew is a Jew, yeah. It doesn't matter Makif, etc. So in the setting of a minyan, that's where it comes out. That when you have 10, it doesn't matter who it is. I repeat the story very often. By Lipsker, he needed a minyan. I think he had the yahrzeit himself. And he went out for mincha, he was looking for someone. There were 9 people in the shul. He went out, and there was a guy walking, he's like, Rabbi, there's no way I'm coming in. We need you, I have yahrzeit, I have this, I him, I her. Anyway, he says, listen, I want to eat lunch. If I want to have a chazer sandwich. If you'll come and sit and watch me eat it, I'll come to join your meeting. And he went and he sat there and watched the guy eat the sandwich. And he says, that guy donated the first $1 million to the shul of Bal Harvey. So, there's a big debate. There's a big debate about if you're allowed to invite and they're going to drive for sure, and so on and so forth. But how could it be through an Aveira? How could it be that? But the Eibishter Mesava Vasidis and the Pinta Liyid will definitely emerge.